Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. This is week number 7 of the course Software Project Management, and today's topic is project time management. So before starting today's lecture, let's have a look towards the previous lecture contents. So last week you have studied the importance of project schedules and their impact on project success. Then we focused on planning schedule management processes. Then we understand that how to define activities, their attributes, and how to list the activities. And after this we learned that how to sequence activities using different techniques. So in today's lecture, which is a part of project time management, we will study that what is estimation of activity duration, means how we will estimate the activity durations, and how we can develop the schedules, and how we will control the schedules. So first of all, we will see what is critical path method, which is represented by CPM. Critical path method is a network diagramming technique used to predict total project duration. So in order to estimate the duration of a project, the useful technique is basically critical path method. A critical path method for a project is the series of activities that determines the earliest time by which the project can be completed. So in this particular activity, you will learn that how, by considering the set of activities, we can determine the earliest possible time for the project completion. So next we have that the critical path is the longest path through the network diagram and has the least amount of slack or float. So what is the critical path? In a network diagram, a critical path is basically a path of the longest duration is known as the critical path, and slack or float of this particular path is the least value amongst all of them. So now we need to know that what is slack or float. Slack or float is the amount of time an activity may be delayed without delaying a succeeding activity or the project finish date. Basically, it is a time that we can consider is basically that amount of time by which an activity may be delayed without delaying the next set of activities and the project completion time. So basically it is the amount of time we may delay an activity without delaying the project completion date. So now we will see that how to calculate the critical path. First, develop a good network diagram. The first thing you have to perform is to develop a network diagram. Add the duration estimates for all activities on each path through the network diagram. So in every path you have to add the duration estimates for each activity on each path. Now the longest path is the critical path. A path with the longest duration will be considered as the critical path. If one or more activities on the critical paths takes longer than planned, the whole project schedule will slip unless the project manager takes corrective actions. So the effect of critical path can be considered one of the important issue, because by delaying any activity of that particular critical path, the whole project can be delayed. So a project manager will take the corrective actions in order to prevent the project schedule overruns. So here we will show that how to determine the critical path for project X. So here we have a network diagram. The nodes represents the start and end nodes or points, and the arrows represents the set of activities with their durations, and the direction we will follow in a network diagram will be from left to right. So in this given diagram we can identify the number of paths. So the path 1 will be, which takes us from the source node to the destination node, will be A, D, H and J. The second path will be B, E, H and J. The third path will be B, F and J. Finally, the fourth and the last path of this network diagram will be C, G, I and J. So in order to calculate the critical path, the first step that you will perform is you have to identify all of the paths. So we have 4 paths in the given network diagram. Now the next step is basically to calculate the durations or the lengths for every path. So let's consider the path 1 here. The path 1 is basically composed on activity A, D, H and J. So the length for activity A will be 1 as mentioned in the network diagram, and the length for D will be 4, and the length for H will be 6, and the length for J will be finally 3. So by summing all of these values, we will get 14 days duration in order to complete path 1. Similarly, we have to find the duration for path 2, 3 and 4. So after calculating the durations, we will see that which path has the longest duration. So now we will check. Path 1 has 14 days, path 2 has 16 days, path 3 has 9 days and path 4 has 14 days. So which path has the longest duration? Of course, path 2, which is composed on activity B, E, H and J with the length 16 is a path with the greater duration. So this one will be considered as the critical path of the given network diagram.